Hey everybody, this is Matthew Soltesiak and you're listening to Not the Same Old Lions podcast. Using my sportscasting background, I speak with a variety of guests and interview key players to gain more insight on what makes this team go. As the Detroit Lions enter a new gritty era, we'll look beyond just the kneecaps when it comes to the analysis. Welcome to another episode. In this episode, we discuss the Detroit Lions' backup quarterback position, because to borrow a couple words from Stephen A. Smith, quite frankly, we aren't so sure they found the solution for the 2023 NFL season. On top of that, this is now probably trickier to fill than most people realize.
Hi everyone, this is Herman Moore, and you're listening to Not the Same Old Lions podcast.
Folks, this is one of the positions mostly watched by us this offseason. It is a position of need only in emergency. It's an insurance policy, if you will. In the last two seasons, it was easy and acceptable to overlook, as the Lions did not have high expectations. But now all of that is out the window with the kitchen sink, as Detroit is the preseason favorites to win the NFC North, a division we must remind you the Lions have never won. So let's take an updated, closer look at the backup quarterback situation. I think the Lions are in a tricky spot right now. While I think most agree a backup with significant game experience would be the preferred option, someone like Teddy Bridgewater or Carson Wentz, they're probably the only two out there that best fit the bill at this point. General Manager Brad Holmes said early in the offseason that they missed on this roster spot last year and they wanted to do better. Now, reading between the lines, it sounds like they may have gone after a player or two, but were not successful in getting them in Detroit during free agency, as they apparently signed with other teams. We heard rumors that they made an offer to Teddy Bridgewater, but nothing has come of that so far. Nothing has materialized. So here is where things get now potentially stickier since the NFL draft. The Detroit Lions drafted Hendon Hooker in the third round. Now, you never know how draft picks will turn out, but there is buzz and hope around Hendon. So it is my guess that the Lions are only going to offer a one-year contract to anyone they might be bringing in as a backup quarterback. Reason being, we all expect Hendon Hooker to be the backup quarterback next year with an inexpensive QB at the 3 spot, if they even carry one there. That means anyone coming to Detroit knows that it is likely going to be as a one-year rental, if you will. And let's think about this, not just from a football perspective, but from a life perspective. Teddy B has played for 4 teams in the last 4 years: the Saints, the Panthers, the Broncos, and most recently the Dolphins. And that is a lot of moving around. Likewise, Carson Wentz played in Philly, Indy, and Washington. Same region of the country, but all different states. So a couple of questions need to be answered here. First, are these players content as a backup, or are they still trying to angle for a spot where they could be a starter? Does that starter position become available due to poor performance from the starting quarterback, or is it due to injury? You can't predict injury. You can hedge your bets on the starting quarterback success of a team, but that too is an undetermined factor. So if they're okay with being a backup quarterback, secondly, you have to ask, do these players want to keep moving around? If they do a one-year deal in Detroit this year, it means a year from now they would be looking at their 6th team in as many years for Teddy, or 5th team in as many years for Carson. I don't know all the details of their personal life. They may be in a season of life where moving is not a big deal. Now, a quick look with the help of Google says Teddy Bridgewater is single, Carson Wentz is married with 2 children. As far as where the rest of their family is located and where they like to live, I do not know. But that too could be a factor, and where they want to reside this next year. I know that played a role in Bobby Wagner's decision to stay on the West Coast. Family aside, it's possible each quarterback is tired of moving multiple years in a row and is looking for a multi-year deal. Look no further than Mitchell Trubisky. He just extended his contract to be the backup in Pittsburgh, and this comes after they re-signed Mason Rudolph. The Pittsburgh Steelers have a pretty deep quarterback room with those moves. The Lions are in interesting territory. We know who the number 1 and number 2 are expected to be for Detroit a year from now. Things can always change, of course, but you have to feel great about Jared Goff and Hendon Hooker for next year as being the top 2 quarterbacks in Detroit. That being said, there is real hope of the Lions making the playoffs and making some noise this year. Not next year, we're talking this year. And currently, the area we are most vulnerable is at our backup quarterback position. Detroit is looking for that one-year bridge backup quarterback. We have our starter. We just need the bridge until Hendon is another year removed from his injury and is able to step into the backup position the way we all think he will. Will Teddy choose to be that bridge for us? An immense insurance policy should something happen to Goff? Or is there another situation or destination that he prefers? Arizona is a place he could get some playing time early, if that is his primary goal. Baltimore is a place I mentioned before, and even though they brought Lamar and Tyler back, Teddy could be the number 2 there, and Lamar has missed multiple games the last 2 years. Heck, Chicago could even be a more appealing landing spot if he got a multi-year deal. The Bears do not have much depth in the quarterback room. We know the Lions put an offer out there. Someone leaked that info, quite possibly Teddy's group, to get more attention. So it's also worth wondering, is the offer still on the table? I'd be shocked if it is more than a one-year deal at this point. Carson Wentz could be someone the Lions consider. He too has experience. Each of those quarterbacks are 30 years old. There is one other dark horse right now. That is the not too long ago released Nick Foles at age 34. Now, he has had moments of success in an Eagles uniform, most notably the 2013 season when he threw 27 touchdowns to 2 interceptions, and of course the 2017 season when he replaced the injured Carson Wentz and led the Eagles through the playoffs and ultimately to their franchise's only Super Bowl title, which was over Tom Brady. Foles spent the last 3 years in the Midwest, 2 in Chicago and the last one in Indianapolis. His recent numbers are not earth-shattering by any means, and last year in Indy is nothing to write home about, but then again, did anything really go right in Indy last year? I don't expect the Lions to offer up a late-round pick for a backup from some other team's roster, as this is likely a one-year stint. It will be interesting, though, to see who gets released from the other teams during the 53-man roster cutdowns. But that is a long time away. And it would be better to get someone in-house to learn the system and help throughout all of camp. Now, the Lions could stand pat with what they have. Nate Sudfeld and undrafted free agent Adrian Martinez. They could wow during camp and impress enough to make the team comfortable with them as the backups. We also know that Coach Dan Campbell has said that he expects Hendon Hooker's first year with the Lions to be treated kind of like a red shirt season. Meaning as he recovers from this injury, we're not expected to see much, if anything, from him. So his first availability could be the second half or the final third of the season. That also adds to the instability or the concern the Lions have in that quarterback room. Now, I must admit again my bias, though, against Nate Sudfeld. I watched the Eagles game, the final game of the season where Jalen Hurts was benched for Nate Sudfeld. That game may have been one of the biggest train wrecks in the NFL. So that has influenced my perception. But maybe it's not an accurate reflection of Nate's talents. But that is why I think the Lions still want someone with more experience in that backup position. After all, they did make an offer to Teddy Bridgewater. He's the one who has not accepted it. Drafting Hendon Hooker does not change things this year, but it does change things next year. And that could be the hiccup in all of this. Be it Teddy, Carson, or Nick, I would be much more comfortable going into the 2023 season having a more experienced player backing up Goff. It feels like a non-negotiable with the Lions already picked as preseason favorites to win their division. Why am I so nervous? Well, let's compare a couple situations in history. First, ask Keyshawn Johnson about his 1999 season with the New York Jets. They had Super Bowl aspirations. They were coming off a 12-4 season the previous year. In the season opener, Vinny Testaverde ruptured his Achilles. They went 8-8 that season using 2 different backup quarterbacks. Of course, there usually is going to be a big difference between the starting quarterback and the backup. So you would expect a drop-off. But you never know how things are going to go if you have someone back there who has had success in the league or you think has some sizable upside. More recently, the same thing happened to Tom Brady back in 2008 with the New England Patriots. In the season opener, he had a similar injury. Matt Castle came in for Brady, and while the Patriots did miss the playoffs that year, they went 11-5 with Castle as their starter. I would consider that a pretty darn good success. Ultimately, the Lions will be deciding if they think Nate Sudfeld or Adrian Martinez possess the abilities of a Matt Castle or a Brock Purdy to fill in should Jared Goff get injured. Or they will likely make a push to bring in another signal caller. Do you think we are good enough to enter the season with the quarterback room as it is? Or do you think the Lions need to put an experienced veteran behind Goff for just this year? Let us know. Would love to hear your thoughts. Also, it's that time of year where the NFL news slows a bit. With that, our show will be taking a little break for the next few weeks, unless something unexpected comes up. You know we'll make sure we cover it. Thank you so much for tuning in, folks. Please tell your friends about the show. Also, subscribe to Not the Same Old Lions podcast to get alerts about new episodes. Follow the show on Twitter at Matt Soltesiak, or check us out on YouTube. And until next time, stay gritty, my friends.